Throughout history, strange reports have emerged of human bodies allegedly catching fire without an obvious external source. This controversial phenomenon is known as spontaneous human combustion. While some claim the fire starts from within, modern forensic science offers a much more grounded explanation for these rare and often terrifyingly localized fire scenes. In 1951, the case of Mary Reeser shocked the public when she was found reduced to ash in her apartment. Early reports claimed the room was almost untouched, fueling the mystery of internal ignition. However, later FBI investigations suggested an external spark likely ignited her clothing, leading to a slow-burning fire. The primary reason these cases seem impossible is the extreme destruction of the body compared to its surroundings. Reducing a body to ash usually requires very high heat sustained for a long period, which is why these localized domestic fire scenes often appear so baffling and unexplained to modern investigators. During the 19th century, it was widely believed that spontaneous human combustion was a result of excessive alcohol consumption. Writers like Charles Dickens popularized the idea that an alcohol-soaked body could become highly flammable. However, modern chemistry proves that even high blood alcohol levels cannot make human tissue ignite from within. The most widely accepted scientific explanation is the Wick Effect. In this scenario, an external source like a cigarette ignites the victim's clothing. As heat breaks down tissue, body fat can melt into nearby clothing or fabric, acting similarly to wax in a candle, fueling a slow, steady, and intense burn. The Wick Effect explains why the surroundings often remain intact. Because the fire is fueled by the body's own fat, it burns at a relatively low but consistent temperature over many hours. This smoldering process focuses the heat directly on the victim, preventing a rapid flashover that would typically ignite the entire room. One of the most debated aspects is how bones can turn to ash in a domestic fire. Forensic experts note that while most house fires are short and intense, the Wick Effect allows for a very long, sustained burn. This extended duration can eventually lead to the progressive destruction and fragility of bones. Some fringe theories once suggested that methane buildup or static electricity could cause a person to suddenly explode. These ideas lack any repeatable scientific evidence and are largely dismissed by the medical community. Human biology is mostly water, making the concept of a sudden internal chemical explosion both physically and chemically impossible. Another hypothesis involves ketosis, a metabolic state where the body produces flammable acetone. While it is true that acetone is highly combustible, the concentrations found in the human body, even during deep ketosis, are far too low to trigger a fire. Science views this as an interesting but ultimately unproven explanation. Historically, the term spontaneous human combustion was often used as a catch-all phrase when investigators could not find a clear point of origin. Today, forensic experts recognize it as a descriptive label for a specific type of fire behavior rather than a confirmed biological process that starts inside the body. In 2010, an Irish coroner officially used the term spontaneous human combustion in the death of Michael Faherty. While this provided a legal label for the unsolved case, most fire experts believe it simply means the exact ignition source remained unidentified. It does not prove that the fire started biologically. Skeptics and forensic scientists argue that every documented case likely began with a simple accident. A dropped match, a stray spark, or a nearby candle provides the necessary energy to start the process. Once the clothing catches fire, the underlying biological materials simply sustain the burn through the long-lasting Wick Effect. In many cases, the victim's feet or hands are found completely unburned. This pattern supports the fat-fueled fire theory, as limbs contain significantly less body fat than the torso. The fire naturally dies out when it runs out of fuel, leaving the leaner parts of the body strangely preserved. The fear of spontaneous human combustion grew during an era when fire was a constant threat and forensic science was in its infancy. Many mysterious deaths were simply poorly understood accidents. Today, with better post-mortem analysis, we can identify environmental factors that previous generations labeled as supernatural or impossible. A very rare fringe theory suggests a cellular malfunction involving mitochondria could release massive energy. However, there is no biological mechanism known to science that would allow cells to release energy as an open flame. This idea remains purely speculative and is not recognized by any major medical or scientific institutions. Modern fire investigators look for specific patterns like V-shaped, charring, and accelerant residues. In supposed SHC cases, the lack of these signs can complicate scene interpretation, especially when investigators are dealing with a highly damaged fire scene. This unusual burning pattern differs significantly from the behavior of typical structural fires. Some researchers have looked for links between these fires and environmental conditions like low oxygen or high static electricity. While these factors might influence how a fire spreads, they cannot create a fire out of nothing. The laws of thermodynamics still require an initial energy input to begin combustion. Humans are naturally drawn to unexplained phenomena, and the idea of a body burning from within is particularly haunting. This psychological fascination often causes people to ignore simpler forensic explanations. Labeling something as spontaneous is often a shortcut used when the evidence is too damaged to properly analyze. As our understanding of fire behavior improves, the number of unexplained cases continues to drop. Most modern experts believe that many, and perhaps most, historical cases can be explained through accidental ignition and prolonged smoldering fire behavior. Science continues to close the gap between mystery and reality through careful observation. While the visual evidence of these fires is undeniably shocking, they do not defy the laws of nature. Spontaneous human combustion is likely a rare forensic fire pattern involving body fat, clothing, and prolonged smoldering combustion. It is a unique anomaly, but it remains grounded in the known principles of physics.